Feels like a significant escalation. Does the U.S. and the U.S. actually, and President Biden gave the blessing to Vladimir Zelensky to use these very big missiles a couple of days ago. Does that come with a guarantee that if Russia escalates, the U.S. is there to protect them?
Well, I think that this is a slew of questions that we do not yet have the answers to, Francine. And just to recap some of the news that we just got in the last few minutes, because this all feels fairly significant, is what we got from Vladimir Putin was signing into a decree allowing Russia to fire nuclear weapons in response to any kind of massive conventional attack on its soil. That would include drones, that would include presumably long-range missiles, that Russia would view aggression against itself or its allies by non-nuclear state backed by other nuclear powers as a joint attack. In summary, basically saying that if there was an attack on Russia by a member of a coalition, that will be seen as an attack by sort of the full coalition, i.e., even if it's a non-nuclear power aided by a nuclear power, that would be seen as a joint attack. This is something that Putin has been talking about signing into as a decree since September. This is officially happening now, and it comes, obviously, Francine, just on the heels of that sort of news that we got from Joe Biden, basically permitting the Ukrainians to begin using some of these ATACMS within Russian territory in the Kursk region, not sort of all across Russia, but within that region. They have a range of about 300 kilometers, and this is coming at a time right now when we understand, again, from Ukrainian news agencies, that those first missiles have been deployed. So what we are getting this morning in the last few minutes is Putin, on the one hand, signing a decree that says that any sort of coalition strike that is backed by a nuclear power, even if it's by Ukraine, non-nuclear, striking within Russia, could see a nuclear response. Again, that is why there has seen a huge move into the Haven assets over the last few minutes. You can see it on.
Why are we not concerned about this and we just going about our daily lives as though everything is normal? Less than 2 months before Biden leaves office, we are now on the verge of a nuclear threat and weapons, and we are escalating tensions. And nobody is having this conversation. Nobody is really deep diving into this. And I'm not just talking about the news media. I'm talking about on social media, everybody concerned about this. 2 months. 2 months before you leave office, you decide that you want to escalate tensions with Russia. Now, why would he do this? Because this, to me, does not seem like a peaceful transition of power. Why would this be a thing? Why is this something that you think makes sense from a strategic perspective when the people have clearly voted and said that we don't want any more new wars and we actually want to de-escalate? We want to have some level of diplomacy to where we have this conversation with both sides to try to figure out how you can come to an amicable solution to get out of war, so that not only are we not funding war, that we're not moving towards a World War III. Donald Trump Jr. said that, hey, listen, I'm telling you, and he said it clearly and loudly, that the Biden administration is trying to sabotage Trump's legacy and then move us into World War III as he hands over the keys to the White House. Now, that to me does not sound like a peaceful transition. This sounds truly like you burning up the house on your way, or you burnt the curtains on your way out the house. And now we closer than ever in our lifetimes to a nuclear war, because we can't be objective enough to call out people because you still identify with people based off of party lines and identity politics. It's just stupid.
This sort of German bonds have been being bought up. You see the euro moving, you see gold moving, you see everything moving, because there's a lot of uncertainty as to what this means. Again, when we think about the possible red lines in Ukraine and when they are drawn, this sort of goes back to what we've been hearing from Olaf Scholz, who has been much more reticent, for one, to support any of these strikes within Russia, presumably to try to avoid a situation that could escalate severely.
But Ali, on these ATACMS, I mean, again, as you said, they're American-made Army tactical missile systems. There's these supersonic guided missiles. Will we know what they've hit this morning and what this means in terms of escalation? Or is the market just, before they find out, they just want to get out of risky assets?
I think that that's what you have to assume, that people want to get out of risky assets. When you hear sort of a Russian nuclear response in the same breath as a strike, within Russia by some of these U.S.-made weapons, that you're going to get a lot of fear within the market, right? And this is exactly the kind of thing that Olaf Scholz has been talking about at the G20 when he was asked, basically, will you follow Joe Biden? Will you begin to deliver your own long-range missiles, the Taurus system that has an even further range than these U.S. ATACMS? Will you be able to deliver those? Will you begin to deliver those to Ukraine? He said, no, absolutely not. My position is unchanged. And that comes after he is really the only G7 leader to have had any contact with Vladimir Putin. They just had a call this Friday and basically saying that Putin had not really changed his position on anything. And he's, of course, also fighting his own election within Germany, where some of the Germans are really very concerned about possible escalation. And many of the voters here, particularly on the far right and the far left, which are doing very, very well here, want to see less involvement in Ukraine, not more involvement. So this.
And how is it any different from here in the United States of America?
Now, guys, actually, listening to this report, I agree with both Anton and this report, all right? I don't think U.S. being involved in this war is a good idea. And I know that they're saying that they're supplying Ukraine with weapons so that it can be able, to defend itself. I don't think that's the reason why they're doing it. I think there's another reason at play here, and I think that reason is to weaken Russia, because we all know about the history between USA and Russia, right? Now, if you don't know why this happened in the first place, let me, from the information that I've learned so far, and because I do my research, I try to understand why certain things like this happen and the history behind it. Now, for those that don't know, during the Cold War, when there was tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, when they decided that the Soviet Union was going to be broken down, there was an agreement between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States, where they had agreed that for Ukraine to be its own state and for Ukraine to be independent, it wasn't going to join NATO, right? It wasn't going to allow. Basically, Ukraine joining NATO means that NATO is going to expand into the east side of Europe, which is where Russia is. And Russia doesn't want that to happen. So they agreed that Ukraine will never join NATO. So recently, before the war actually started, the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, had petitioned to join NATO, and that was the problem, right? And for me, how can you put the risk of your own people, the safety of your own people at risk? Because that's essentially what he did when he petitioned to join NATO, right? He caused all of this. Now, I'm not justifying Russia's actions, but what I'm saying is that everyone involved in this situation has a responsibility, from the United States, from Russia, and from Ukraine. They all have a responsibility. And this should have never happened in the first place. The United States should have never agreed to supply Ukraine with weapons. The thing that they should have done was force all parties to sit down, discuss all possible solutions, and come to an agreement, right? Now, on what Anton is saying, I actually agree with him. Or why are people not talking about this globally? It seems like people don't care. Actually, if you think about it, one of the reasons why the economy is where is it today is because of these wars. The war between Ukraine and Russia, the ones that are happening between Israel and Palestine and Hezbollah, like all of these wars influence the global economy, which results in things becoming so much expensive today. That's why you can even show that's why they're even showing the markets, right, on how the market is reacting to this whole situation. This should have never happened in the first place. And these people are playing games with people's lives. People's lives are being ruined. People's lives are being ruined. And they're taking politics, they're making politics much more important than people's lives. And keep in mind, all these people, all these politicians, their first responsibility when they're elected is to serve people. Not themselves. not themselves. But now they're putting their own people at risk for their own reasons, and people are dying. And I honestly believe that as people from different parts of the world, we should be speaking about this, we should be raising concerns so that these things can stop. Part of the reasons why they feel comfortable and this war is happening right in front of our eyes is because people are not saying anything. In fact, yet we've come to a point whereby now this is normal to our lives. Even when we hear about war, it's nothing. These are the things that I used to learn about in high school. War. I never thought for the life of me in my lifetime I would ever see something like this. Now there's a talk of a nuclear war. Imagine. This is too much. And we're supposed to be living in a very advanced world where, safety is a priority, the environment is a priority. I don't think this promotes this. I don't think that everyone's actions involved in this. It seems like they're promoting war because they're making money from it. I mean, let's break this down for a second. These weapons that are being supplied to Ukraine, who manufactures it? Because I'm sure the manufacturing company who does this whole thing, they are making a ball. They are making a lot of money. And where are they situated, those companies? Because I'm sure they're situated in the United States. And guess who's making more money? Those companies. Now, if these companies are making so much money, why would they advocate for war to stop? Because the war stopping means that they're going to make less money. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. And I think as people, we should be petitioning because now it's Ukraine. The next thing is Israel and Palestine. What's next? What's next? I mean, at this point, what's next? Because I'm sure in the next few years, you're going to hear another war between other countries. This is just unacceptable. Let's continue.
We don't want more escalation of war, but this administration is acting like a dictatorship. They're not even representing the best interests of the people. They going against what the voters are saying, and they basically ruining his legacy. Jesus Christ. Nobody here over in Germany. And Germany said,
Welcome to the wonderful world of animation. Animation involves
Europe said, you know what? That's not really in the best interest of our country and our people. Meanwhile, we over here being warmongers and then running it up in order to make sure that we make the military-industrial complex richer and people that service these industries, and so we can sabotage Trump on his way out the door. And we got Sleepy Joe and presumably Kamala Harris in the same room because she did herself say that she was in a room to help make the decisions of all of the most important things when she was running for president of the United States of America. And more importantly, what would a Kamala Harris, a continuation of Biden administration's policies look like, especially when it comes to war and doing the things that's in the best interest of the American people, look like? I want to see these lunch ladies on The View address this, because while they sitting there getting mad at the Morning Joe and MSNBC for now acquiescing over into making sure that they cover the Trump presidency effectively, they not having no conversations about the escalation of war. And don't sit here and never try to pin this on Trump. Don't pin this on Trump. Trump and the Republicans is the party of peace. We are not the party of war, and the Democrats have become more enraged and more hungry for power and to completely tear this country all apart. And I don't understand why they doing this. Why are they pushing us closer to the button? When Putin says, listen, I consider this an escalation of war and nothing is off the table as far as, and he warned us months ago during the election season that, listen, anything against us it gives us the authority to be able to authorize nuclear weapons to be used, and more people are going to die. There's blood on this administration's hands. We don't want to say it. We've been playing identity politics, and y'all been being distracted from things that really matter. And I'm telling you that this is an issue. This is 100% a problem, and the Biden administration and the Kamala Harris needs to be held accountable for it. And if y'all let this pass, and y'all don't address this, and y'all don't put aside party politics, to hold accountable the people that are basically pushing us further into a war that we don't want to be into, then I would have to say that y'all are a part of the problem just as much as they are, because they just a reflection of the voters. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. We don't want to be a part of war. Nobody in the world wants to be a part of these warmongers. We continue to write blank checks. Now we're sending over U.S. military equipment and giving authorization for them to fire deep into Russia. You didn't think it was going to be repercussions that come along with that? Okay. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, teach Hanley 40%.
So yes, guys, I actually agree with Anton on what he's saying on this war. I think this war needs to be stopped as quick as possible, and hopefully, since Trump is going to become the president, he's going to stop it, because I don't think this war is good for anybody. I don't think it's good for anybody, and I know people around the world, especially people who are not directly affected by this war, don't really care about it, but I think we should care. I absolutely think we should care, because this affects us all. Imagine if it was you. I mean, how many parents have to sit there and watch their kids die because of this? I mean, this is just unacceptable, and I actually agree with him. I agree with everything he said. I think this wars needs to stop, together with the one that's happening between Israel, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran. These wars just need to stop, because they're benefiting no one except the people who make money from this. These companies who supply these weapons are the ones who are making money. They are the ones who are making money here. Not anyone else. It's the people suffering and they make money.